Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, doing the hashtag Tarot Collector that was started by Moon Baby, and I don't recall his name, but I will put his link to his video down below. And a lot of people have been jumping on this, and it's been fun. I am going to be a little bit excessive in that I'm going to do one tarot and one oracle. So even though it's Tarot Collector, I love my oracle decks also, so I'm going to try to include one of each, and in one case, two of each. So I'm not going to go into each deck particularly. You know, I'll just show them a little bit about them and move on. Keep things moving because there are so many decks here. Alright, so it starts with most expensive deck. So in other words, the ones I've paid the most money for. I don't keep close. You know, once I've committed to paying money for a deck, I don't spend a lot of time worrying about how much I paid for it. Thereafter, I'm not thinking about like turning them around and making a profit as a collector or anything like that. So once I've paid, I'm done. I don't hold on to the price. I don't think I have ever paid over $70, including shipping. And the two decks that I have here are essentially the most expensive because of shipping. I think the Heart of Fairy I ended up paying $60 some for. So that might actually be more than the Weaver's. I'm not sure. I honestly don't remember how much the Weaver's Oracle cost. And I think the Money Tarot was, I don't know if it was 50 with shipping or without. I can't remember. But anyway, here's the Money Tarot by Eugene Vinitsky. Yes, and of course, why not? For the most expensive deck, bring out the Money Tarot. So this is using images from currency from around the world for each of the cards, each of the tarot cards. So it's really interesting, really clever. I haven't had the best the best experience reading with it yet, but I do need to spend more time with it. So that's the tarot deck, and again, I've chosen the Weaver's Oracle, which is fairly well known as the Oracle deck that I've spent the most money on. But in all honesty, I don't know which one I've spent the most money on. So you saw the faces of the Weavers on the box. And why isn't this in the... There we go. I'm not sure it's going to focus very well. And I'm not going to take the Weavers out of order because they're in a particular order that I was going through. So I'm going to leave them just like that. And I'm going to put the books right back in there. I'm still working with the Weavers. Alright, so next category is least expensive. So least expensive is, for tarot, is going to be the Baseball Tarot. And I don't know if it cost $1, $5. I think it was $3.99. A used deck for $3.99, and you know, and then there was $3 shipping or something, or $2.99 for shipping. So it was really cheap, and there were even some that were being sold when I got it. There were a bunch that were being sold for a penny. They were on there for a penny. So I don't know what made me choose the one that was more expensive. And I think since then, they're starting to charge for them more. It is an out-of-print deck. No sign of it coming back into print. But there you go. Not every out-of-print deck is expensive. Sometimes you can get them for a penny. This is a trimmed version because the cards are really huge, and I can't deal with super huge cards for the most part. So yep, the baseball tarot was ridiculously cheap. And then for the oracle, it's not technically an oracle deck. It's a set of cards that came with, it's the Lord of the Rings. And it was a game and oracle deck. But it was being sold as a game. And again, it was being sold for a penny. And it looked, you know, I saw some, I don't know if it was reviews or something, and it looked really, the game looked incredibly stupid. And there were really bad reviews of it. And it really is, it's bad. And so I've kept none of the game parts. I've kept the little divination book, and I've kept the cards. So yeah. And I think that's what I paid. I didn't pay extra for this. So yep. And this is now, was proved when I did my dark deck readings. This proved to be one of the darkest, so it has a function even. Except that I almost never do dark readings. So, but it's there if I need it to tell me that I'm Gollum. So a deck that others would want to steal from my collection. You know, that's a difficult one. You know, I have a hard time knowing what other people value. So I'm going to say, because I think it's out of print, I think that, I don't know. So I'm assuming it would be one of the out of print decks that I have. You're going to see a couple of other ones here further down in the prompts. But I'm guessing maybe the Majestic Earth Tarot. And I think you all know this deck because it was so popular last year. Or talked about at any rate. And I don't know if she did another printing of it or not, since I happily have it. But I'm putting it in this category based on the idea that it's out of print. And of my oracle decks, I'm guessing the Heart of Fairy. Oh no. That's what it says. Oh no. Of course, some people have, you know, don't even like the Fraud Fairies, and, you know, this deck gets, you know, some, I'll say that it gets negative reviews when it's compared to the Fairies Oracle. If the Fairies Oracle didn't exist, I don't know what kind of reviews this would get, or what the thinking would be on it. But in any case, I don't know if I have any other out-of-print oracles. And again, my assumption would be that it would be something out of print is part of what would demand any desire for somebody to steal something. Otherwise, they could just go out and buy it. Okay, so next prompt. strangest. Well, I'm going to do, I have kind of two tarot decks that are strangest, I think fall under strangest. The Hidden Waters Tarot, kind of ink blot tarot deck. It's so abstract. Ace of Pentacles. You know, Eight of Pentacles. Looks like a scarab, actually. Two of Swords. Five of Wands. So, yep. It's weird. It's beautiful. And interesting and intriguing, but weird. And the other deck, which is really the first one that came to mind, was the Tarot of Physics. It's kind of doubly weird because it's like homemade. It's homemade. It's like parchment paper. You can kind of feel the little nub, you know, for where you pop it out. And then just clear contact paper. So it feels completely homemade. And it's using physics and diagrams of physics. So this is Big Bang, singularity. In the beginning there was perfect balance and all was one. This is the Fool card. And then Generator, Two of Energy, which I think is Two of Wands. Generator. Moving magnets generate electricity. And this has been surprisingly accurate and clear in its readings. I don't use it very often, but when I do, I'm always surprised that it makes any sense at all, especially since I'm not very up on physics. So perspective, horizon, distance makes objects appear smaller. Seven of Space, which I think is Seven of Swords. So you get the idea. Multiverse, the world. Theories of alternate dimensions explain quantum interactions. So there we go. And then, so there's two tarot decks that are pretty weird. I do have some weird decks. I do. And then I chose the Shaman's Oracle for my strangest oracle because the images often aren't of anything. They're kind of humanoid. So this is an animal, like an elk or an antelope. But the other figure here you can barely see, partly because of the glare. So the animal ones make sense. But then you've got, like, what the heck's going on here? What's going on? It's a dancer of joy. There's another, it's like being thankful for the animals. And what's this weird figure with the strange headdress and the snake? The elongated body. This owl-like figure. And then some strange figure up here doing something to this down here. So, and wow, look at that. So, you know, figures with animal heads and hands. So these are based on cave paintings, which is why they're so weird. And very, to me, quite non-intuitive. So, but I do value it. I value what's in the guidebook, and it can be quite accurate. Especially when I'm going through strange times. So if I'm going through strange times, this strange deck can be quite helpful. moving right along. What's next? Decks that others are least likely to have. So what other people are least likely to have. And I have 2 tarot and 2 oracle decks for these. So I'm doing these decks that people have seen quite a bit of on my channel this year because I've gone through these cards, the Sacred Sites Tarot, and kind of talked about the sites after researching them, sharing a little bit about them. And then I just finished in August. This was my deck of the month, Tarot of the Southwest Sacred Tribes. So I know that there are a few people, are a few other people who've done deck walkthroughs of these cards. So they are out there. But and I don't know. I mean, December, I've been going through these throughout the spring and summer, I think. I think I started in the springtime going through every single card and the sacred site on the card. But this deck is also my deck of the month for December. So I have yet to determine whether this deck is particularly readable. And it is out of print. And this deck is also out of print, and I just, as I said, it was my deck of the month for, or was it September? It was September, because now I'm in October. So yeah, it was pleasantly readable and had a very soft, gentle voice. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised with how readable this deck was. I was a little worried, but happy to have it in my collection. And then Oracle decks. The first one I thought of was this. I'm not sure that I've seen anybody, I don't know if maybe the creator has a walkthrough of her cards somewhere on YouTube or whatever, but I haven't seen any other people talk about these. They are gigantic. But I really like them. I really like kind of when I'm needing to get grounded. This is a really good deck, and she truly, they are gigantic. This is my hand. they like dwarf my hand. I like the art, and the guidebook is actually quite psychological. Sorry for all the glare. Yes, it has some horizontal, some upright. So, yep, my Black Angel cards. And the other oracle is the Wolf Song cards by Lou Hartman. And these are North American animals depicted on these cards. And they're supposed to it's supposed to be a deck that helps you transition through changes. And I remembered this when I was going through my animal, because it's with all of my animal decks. And I was pulling out my medicine cards, who will be featured here shortly. And I thought, oh yeah, there's the Wolf Song cards. Even I forgot I had them. because really I could have used them over the past couple of months. All right, we're coming down to the last. No, we're not. We're kind of midway. 4 more prompts to go. The deck I've had the longest. So, yep, there are the medicine cards. And so these were my steady eddies for many, many years. I was happy to just read for myself using my medicine cards. I had another oracle deck, and somebody had given me a tarot deck that didn't really work that well for me. And I'd had a tarot deck earlier in my life and had let it go. And these ones stuck and have been with me for a very long time. I don't even know when I got them. I don't know, 90s, 80s, late 80s. I can't remember exactly when they came into being. And tarot deck, I'm not going to even show you. It's a Rider-Waite-Smith plaid back, relatively recent, because when I had my first experience with tarot was with a pip deck, the Celtic Tarot, the one that's I can't remember the name of the creator, but and yeah, it's a pip deck, and I had it for several years, but in the end, it's like I'm never able to get away from reading from the book, and it just wasn't really working. I just admitted finally that it wasn't working for me, and let it go. And unfortunately, I was assuming that all tarot decks would be similar, because I had that tarot deck, and then I had a book that was a Marseille book, and so that was my knowledge of tarot, was right there. I wasn't seeking beyond that. I knew of somebody who had a Mother Peace deck, and I didn't like the images on the Mother Peace deck. I was never attracted to that deck, and just wasn't looking beyond that. And so it wasn't until about 5 years ago that I was that I was wanting to get into reading for other people, and most people are wanting tarot readings, and I thought, gosh, I've got to go back, and I've got to learn the tarot if I'm going to be reading for others, because that's what they want. They don't want oracle decks, and I'm just such an oracle deck person. So I discovered the Rider-Waite-Smith at that point, and got the plaid back that's been out for a while now. And so that's the deck I've had the longest. I don't know which of my decks is the oldest. I have an early version of the Herbal Tarot that might be the oldest tarot deck that I have. I don't know. It's not. I'm not a collector in that regard. I don't have a strong interest in collecting every period of the Rider-Waite-Smith or anything like that. It's not at all an interest of mine. Okay, so next is newest deck. So my newest deck, which I'm not sure if I will get my walkthrough of this out or not before I share this video. Possibly not. So I just got this. I just got this a couple of days ago, or a few days ago. Tarot of Trees, 10th Anniversary Edition. Large cards, again, big cards. She is going to bring out a more standard sized deck in 2021 at some point, but this is the big bold deck, and I will be it was out of print for quite a while. That's why I jumped on this one. I saw she was reprinting it. So my most recent tarot deck right there. And then among oracles, kind of the polar opposite in terms of in terms of classiness, we have the Oracle of Angels by Richard Webster. This is my Beefcake Angel deck. I was kind of looking for an angel deck, but and had quite a bit of trouble finding ones that worked for me, and I'm not sure if these work for me. There's a Beefcake Angel with scrolls. They all look like they're bodybuilders. But I didn't, when I got it in my hand, it's like I didn't dislike it, and I kind of, there's a lot of cards, you know, there's quite a number of cards, and I always like to have my oracle decks. I'm always a little annoyed by the whole 36 or 44 card deck, oracle deck. I don't see why you can't do a 52 card oracle deck. That sort of thing gets to me. And so this, well, this might only be 40 cards itself. But it's all the archangels, all the endless archangels. So, yep. And it's an oddball. This is, I could have taken this one out also as least likely for anybody to have in their collection. Definitely. What else am I doing here? Decks. So that was newest. Those were my newest. I lost track entirely. Deck that made you want to collect. Actually, I would say the first, it didn't make me like want to find more decks. But the Fairies Oracle was the first deck that made me think in a non-utilitarian way. Now this is a very utilitarian deck, as it turns out. But when I saw it, when I saw that Brian Froud, or the art of Brian Froud, was used in an oracle deck, I was just all over it. It's like I didn't care if it was useful or not. I couldn't have cared less whether it ended up being useful. I just loved the idea. I do love Brian Froud's art. Years ago I had had books of his art, but I had let them go through the years, so it was totally nostalgic. Just hugely nostalgic. And then it turns out they are very useful, readable. It's a great oracle. The fairies. I know some people can't relate, but I think it's a great oracle. But as I said, it was the first deck in my discovery that there were all of these, you know, tarot and oracle decks out there, which I had remained blissfully ignorant of, until I started to want to read for others and felt that I needed to expand beyond my medicine cards. So in many ways, that first non-utilitarian impulse was the Fairies Oracle. And then for tarot, I don't remember really in terms of that, but I would say the first inkling, actually I would say the first inkling toward tarot collecting was utilitarian in the sense of, except for there's the Brian Froud, that was not utilitarian. But I first started getting more than one deck because I was doing love readings here on YouTube. I was doing zodiac sign based love readings on YouTube. That's what this channel started out as. And I wanted to have more than one romance deck, or I was looking for good romance themed decks. And that's really what got me kind of trying on different decks, and you know, the moods and types, different types of decks, was that utilitarian aspect. But there's a different collector's impulse when you get into something like this. So I thought, a deck of kitties, how great. And this, again, turned out to be quite utilitarian. It's not fluffy, as many people might think it would be fluffy. But when, you know, with the cat, with this cat deck, then for me the question arose, well, where are the dog decks? It's like the cats are associated with witches or witchcraft or being familiars, and so there were a bunch, well, not a bunch, but there were, you know, you had a selection of potential cat decks, but there were no dog decks, and it was almost like pre-collecting, you know. So I was watching for a dog deck. Well, what about a dog deck? We need a dog deck. And just the animal, because I'm an animal lover, I was, you know, looking at different animal decks. Even though I have my medicine cards, for some reason, I had that feeling that there were, you know, that there was an animal tarot deck out there for me somewhere. But I love my mystical cats. I like my magical dogs, you know, so things came in time. The magical dogs, the wise dog, tarot, other animal oracles, and, you know, the bird cards, and there's and I can't remember the name of it, there's a dog oracle, you know, so I ended up kind of getting an animal deck collector attitude, but never, you know, never in the sense of like I have to have every deck, you know. It's kind of like I've got a cat deck, and I've got a cat oracle deck, and I've got a dog deck. Now I've got 2 dog decks and a dog oracle deck, and I don't feel the need to have any more of that sort of thing, but I do like animal decks, and so I do have several animal decks. And then I ended up going down the Native American deck rabbit hole as well on that. And then, you know, it snowballs. All right, so favorite decks. That's always a rough one, right? But I'm going to stick with, you know, if somebody said tomorrow, you can only keep a couple of decks, I would keep my medicine cards. My old tried and true, I'd just go back to the medicine cards. It's like, all right, I'll keep the medicine cards, and I would keep the fairies. I would keep the fairies. And as a tarot deck, I would keep the Centennial Smith-Waite. Most of the time I use the deck in a tin, but I would probably keep the full-size deck. You know, there's a possibility that among the decks I have, like the Golden Art Nouveau and the Trippin-Waite, that over time there are Rider-Waite-Smith tarot decks that would, you know, that would bring me to leave this one behind. And it's a favorite mainly because it's very utilitarian. It's extremely easy to read. The Smith-Waite Centennial is easy on the eyes. So that's why I would keep it. I would keep this to read for other people. I probably wouldn't read for other people using this. So if somebody said you can only keep 3 decks, for the most part, I would stop reading for other people. I might use this to occasionally read for other people, but I probably would just stop. It's like, all right, if that's my life's restriction, then I'm just not going to worry about reading for other people, and I'm just going to use these decks and read for myself. That's probably my attitude. But I do like to have, when I'm doing readings for other people, I do like to have decks to choose from. Yeah. Yep, I do. But that said, I do have an excess of decks. There wouldn't be that many. And most of my Oracle decks I really read for myself rather than others. All right, so thank you, Moon Baby, which I feel ridiculous calling you that. But I can't remember your name for the life of me, even though some people have said it in their own videos. Thank you for the tag. It was interesting to go through, and it's been really interesting watching others. I encourage anybody who's watched this on my channel to jump on the bandwagon and do this themselves, and or check out all of the other videos where people are sharing their decks. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.